Good evening, folks. I call to order April 13th, 2022, the Board of Education meeting for West Carrollton School District. Call to order. Roll call, Mr. Ryan Sloan, please.
Mr. Cox.
Here.
Mr. Henry.
Present.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Here.
Mrs. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Mundy.
Here.
If I can get you all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight. Good evening, folks. We'll start off with the introductions of the board members. To my far left, your right, is Nathan Mundy, board member. Don Henry, board member. To my left, Dr. Andrea Townsend, our superintendent. My name is Joe Cox, board president. To my right is Leslie Miller, board vice president. To her right is John Llewellyn, board member. And to his right is Ryan Sloan, our treasurer. In our audience tonight, we have Melissa Tice, our assistant superintendent, Devin Berry, our human resources, Jack Haig, our business manager, and then we have Julie Jones and Dr. Craig Myers with curriculum. We will jump right into number 5. It is recommended that the agenda for April 13th, 2022 meeting be adopted as presented, and there is an addendum.
Yes, there is. Thank you. We need to remove an item from 13A, remove an item from 13B, and add new item number 21.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Mundy.
Yes.
Number 6, it is recommended the minutes of our regular meeting held on March 16th, 2022, and the minutes of the special meeting held on March 23rd, 2022 be approved as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Mundy.
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes. We have no comments from the public relating to the agenda items. Item number 8, our student rep report. Mr. Llewellyn?
Thanks, sir. We have 2 of our reps with us tonight, McKenna and Shabri. I think McKenna's going to share first, and Shabri maybe share after that. I'm not sure. But McKenna, if you will go ahead and come up to the podium and share with us.
Hi everyone. So I just want to talk about this past weekend. Me and Shabri participated in this really cool roundtable at Klein Elementary in Centerville. We got to meet with student board reps from Centerville and Northmont, and we got to talk to state board members. We discussed a new law they're putting in that allows 5 students to actually be on their board for the entire state. And we told them what we thought about it, what we might want to change about it. We told them our experiences. We told them how much we liked it and how interesting it was. And it was honestly so cool to be able to talk to student reps from other districts because we don't get the opportunity very often, especially because of COVID. But it was really cool, and it's interesting to see how they do things compared to us. It gave me some ideas just for our district as well. So it was a really good experience.
So I was at that meeting. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Go ahead. Do you
want to tell them about the chords?
well, no, I wasn't going to go there. You
Okay.
can in a minute.
Okay.
We we had like she said, a meeting at Klein Elementary School, Centerville hosted in one of their auditoriums. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the auditorium in CF Holiday by comparison. But it was a Zoom and in-person meeting. There were 3 State Board of Education members, including Ms. McGuire, who's the board president for the state board and also represents this area. And then Mr. Young, who is the newly elected state representative who replaced Mr. Antani, he was there as well. So we had 4 in-person folks. We had about 6 by my quick counting here that attended by Zoom, including our superintendent and Northmont's superintendent. I appreciate her attending that. I asked that she provide just a little feedback about her on experience having a student rep now be part of our board, and they both were excellent at communicating that. What I want to share, and I'll leave the court thing to you,
Okay.
but what I'd like to, unless Shabri wants to, or McKenna, one of the things that came out of this, besides the fact the kids got to talk about their own student rep experiences and the encouragement they gave to the legislators, there's 11 more people who are being sent the recording who couldn't be there. So in total, we've touched 22 people that are either on the State Board of Education or sitting senators or legislators in Columbus to address this. So hopefully that's a pretty good group of people to influence what happens with this. I think this will be, to me, a fairly easy bill to pass, but I don't think having student input is going to hurt that. But what I didn't anticipate so quickly was one of the state board members, his name is Paul LaRue, he has asked for this group of students. There's 11 total. There's 5 in Centerville, they have the most, 3 here, 2 in Valley View, and 1 in Northmont. Those represent the 4 districts that made this roundtable up. But he sent us a document, basically a curriculum that the district's going to be dealing with soon, I suppose, that has to do with interaction between students and peace officers. And it's a small curriculum, it looks like, but he's asked for student feedback about that from our kids. So the Board of Education was, DRAP was assigned to put this curriculum together when a Senate bill, I believe from last year's legislative session passed. And so the board's putting together the curriculum for interaction between students and peace officers. And so our students were asked to look at it and share any feedback about it. So here's the chance already for these guys to influence potential curriculum that could come out for the students to come in future years. So I think that's pretty cool too. And I think that's a segue to what might happen maybe on a regular basis, where they ask students like ours to give them feedback, because one of their jobs is to work with the state, with different stakeholders and committees that they end up forming to draft a lot of this curriculum. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to come out of this too, for the kids, for our 2 students and these other 9 as well. Do you have anything else to add, McKenna? Or
No, that was pretty much it. But it was really nice that the state board members took time out of their days to pay attention or come down in person or get on Zoom. It was really nice, and I'm glad they got to hear our voices.
all right, you go.
Yes. Because we got to meet in person this year, which was very nice, we have also got together just real briefly at the end to set this to be an annual event, so that we can meet with the legislators, and perhaps next year we can host it in our brand new building. So that would be awesome to do. Because we'll always probably have an aspect of Zoom, because people just can't travel all over the place for that short of a meeting. But one of the things I know that the 2 of you shared with Centerville, we do have in the graduation program, there is going to be a little asterisk that denotes you as being part of us. And I'm happy to report that you will be receiving silver cords for graduation. So that was kind of, we didn't know that the others had received those, and they shared. And so our Dr. Townsend made that possible for us. So, so we will be able to honor you at graduation,
Right.
both of you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
I know, we're like, oh.
Plus,
So,
there were some
but-
colors that were already taken, so you had to. Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm excited. Thank you.
It was just a great day.
That's all I have.
Yes, thank you.
That's it. Moving on to our communication update. It's Janine.
Good evening. So one thing that's not in my presentation is we will be putting out more information about the naming committee and working on gathering information from some of the community members that came here this evening, as well as those who could not make it. So I'm excited about that. And here we go. There's a lot of ways you can find out what's happening in your school district. Our website is westcarrolltonschools.com. You can access Facebook at West Carrollton City Schools or Twitter at WC City Schools. You can connect to both of those at our website. Farewell tours are scheduled for this Saturday, April 16th from 9 a.m. to noon. Come and enjoy photos and school artifacts that will be on display. You may even see a former classmate. CF Holiday just sent me information that they are going to be selling t-shirts through May 8th. There will be a limited number of these shirts available at the event on Saturday, but you can order them online. I'm not going to read through the whole connection online, but just go to westcarrolltonschools.com under District News. It will give you that connection and give you a little more information. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I was going through pictures. I got to go through the buildings just in the last week, and you can see on the right where we are now. And to the left, that's where we were not quite a year ago. So pretty interesting changes. And you can follow all those updates at westcarrolltonschools.com under the building projects. And I want to congratulate our middle school orchestra. Since we last met here at a board meeting, their very first day of spring break was a Saturday, and they went to the OMEA adjudicated event for orchestra. This is just a picture of the 8th grade students, or some of them, and I'm really excited because they said, yes, we all plan on coming back to the high school next year, continuing with orchestra. So I'd love to hear that. And wah, 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 wah. That is Charlie Brown, teacher speak, interpreted as the spring musical is coming back. So that's really exciting, and I know we're going to get a preview tonight. I'm very excited about that. Your good man, Charlie Brown, will be presented Friday, April 22nd at 7 p.m., Saturday, April 23rd at 7 p.m., and Sunday, April 24th at 2 p.m. You can purchase a ticket online. Again, I know the connection there on the screen is small, but just go to westcarrolltonschools.com, and under our district news, there is a connection. You can buy your tickets prior to the show, and you can pick your seats. Otherwise, tickets will be available at the door. And continue to watch for updates coming from your child's school as well as from the superintendent. We've got a lot of things going on this time of year, a lot of fun and exciting events. So that is what I had this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are so excited to be returning to live theater this year at the high school. This is actually, we started doing musicals at West Carrollton High School in 1963. So if you do the math, that means this is our 59th year. So I guess next year better be something big, right? So we are back in full force with Your Good Man, Charlie Brown. This is a great show. It is completely family friendly. It is, of course, based on the Charles Schulz Peanuts comic strips and characters. And the show is, as Janine said, going to be on next weekend, the 22nd and 23rd at 7 p.m., the 24th at 2 p.m. You can find us on Facebook at West Carrollton High School Musical. Our ticket link is all posted there, along with our Meet the Gang posts, where we have all of our kids posted so you can see their bios and learn a little bit about all of our cast, crew, orchestra, and everybody else that's working as part of the show. What we're going to do for you tonight is the opening, which is, of course, the song called You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. So I'm going to let the kids come up and get into place. You all may want to come out here, and I would recommend that nobody sit in the first row or you might get kicked.
But I am 5. I'm more than 5.
Oh well, that's the way it goes. The only thing wrong with my big brother, Charlie Brown, is his lack of confidence. His inferiority and his lack of confidence. His clumsiness, his inferiority, and his lack of confidence. His stupidity, his clumsiness, his inferiority, his lack of confidence. Charlie Brown, you're the kind of reminder we need.
Did you know that Charlie Brown has never pitched a winning baseball game, never been able to keep a kite in the air, never won a game of checkers, and never successfully punted a football? Sometimes I marvel at his consistency.
Humility and a sense of honor that is very rare indeed. I think Charlie Brown has nice hands. It's truly a dog's life, filled with many challenges. You try acting excited when that round-headed kid comes home from school. A prince and a prince could be king.
Now, Linus, I want you to take a good look at Charlie Brown's face. Would you please hold still a minute, Charlie Brown? I want Linus to study your face. Now, this is what you call a failure face. Notice how it has failure written all over it. Study it carefully. You rarely see such a good example. Notice the deep lines, the dull, vacant look in the eyes. Yes, I'd say this is one of the finest examples of a failure face that you're liable to see for a long while.
Some days I wake up early to watch the sunrise, and I think how beautiful it is. Like this morning, for instance. The sky's so clear and the sun's so bright. How could anything go wrong on a day like this? I'm late!
You're a good man, Charlie Brown. You're the kind of reminder we need. You have humility and a sense of honor
So that is the opening of the show. We hope you'll all come out and see us on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. Again, tickets at westcarrolltonschools.com or showtixforyou.com. Thank you. Now they have to go back to rehearsal.
Moving on to tonight's presentations, our points of pride will be financials with our treasurer, Ryan Sloan.
Okay, good evening. I was going to see if we could do an order change. I think I can follow curriculum, but I can't follow Charlie Brown. But, can we switch, Dr. Martin? No. Okay. So this is, I do this every April. This will be relatively brief. I will have more information about our financial forecast next month. So, but I do have just a little bit of information to go over here. So these are numbers from the state report card. The state report card has a little bit of financial information on it, so you can compare. So what this slide here is saying is that for the 2021 school year, our operating spending per pupil was $10,689, and 76% of that was spent on instruction, which is a very good number. As you compare it to the state average, the state average is that fourth line there, and the state average is a little bit less than 70%. And then Mad River and Vandalia are on here because those are the two districts in the county that are pretty close to us in terms of size. So you can see that we spend about 7% less per pupil than Mad River and Vandalia. And we were just slightly, about 3% higher than the state average. The other good point on this slide is the bottom, where it says that that 76% of our money going to the classroom. So that ranks second highest out of the 110 districts in the state who are similar to us in size. The state looks at, like, we're in a pool with districts between 2,500 and 5,000 kids. So this just kind of shows that we're doing a great job of spending as much money as possible, in the classroom. So this next slide is regarding our property values. So it's obviously kind of hard to read. So hopefully the thousands of viewers at home can see it better than you can. But so every 3 years, we have a reappraisal or an update of our property values. So last year, a lot of the conversation was regarding to the fact that these are our residential values. So in 2021, our values went up 17%. But we have to remember that values are only adjusted every 3 years. So this is just big picture. Looking back, starting in 1991, and on average, our values have gone up about 9% per year. Excluding 2012 and 2015, when we had the recession and housing prices fell. But the main point here is that our property values in 2022 are basically the same as they were in 2021, and the residential values will be basically the same next year in 2023, and then there will be an increase in 2024 when we have the update. So just a reminder that every 3 years, the county auditor does either a reappraisal or an update, but in those 2 years in between, the values basically stay pretty static. So in November of 19, the community supported our 5.6 mil bond issue so that we could build these 2 new buildings. So in 2020, that millage was at 5.6 mils. And then in 2021, because our property values increased the residential property values increased by 17%, and we correspondingly lowered the bond millage by 18%, down from 5.6 to 4.6. And here in 2022, because our values stayed flat in 2022, we kept the millage the same at 4.6. So, that's something that we will communicate with Baird. Baird helped us with our financing, and so every year we get in touch with Baird and we get in touch with the county auditor to set that millage. And we're only trying to generate as much money as needed from the taxpayers just to make our annual debt payments on the 2 new buildings. So big picture, just starting at 2000, we've passed operating levies in 2000 and 03 and 07, and then we were able to keep functioning for 9 years without new money from 07 to 2016, and that was that was a good thing to be able to stay off the ballot for new money for 9 years. 3 years later, as I mentioned, we passed a bond issue in 2019, and then so the next thing we're looking at down the road is when is our next operating levy going to be? We don't know the answer to that. At this time, so that's what's meant by 2020X. So that as we move forward and look at financial forecasts in the future, then that's when we'll know if we need to request new operating money in 24 or 25 or 26. So it's to be determined. But if it turns out to be 2025, for example, that'd be a 9-year gap between new operating money. So that's a good thing. As we've gotten out of to be able to stay off the ballot for 7, 8, 9 years, as opposed to back as what we're doing in the early 2000s when we had to request new money every 3 or 4 years. So we obviously just try to manage our finances as well as we can and come to the community for new money as infrequently as possible. This graph, I had this graph last year. It's just representing the interest rates from 1990 to 2021. And big picture, you can just see that in general, there was a huge decline in interest rates from 1990 to 2021. I contacted Mike Burns from Baird just a couple days ago and just asked him, if we were having to be on the ballot here in May, for example, for a bond issue, what will we be looking at? And so the top part, points out that, the fact that we passed the bond issue in November 2019, we were able to issue 37 years of debt at an effective interest rate of 2.89%. As everybody knows, interest rates have risen dramatically recently, and I was expecting the number to be a little bit higher, but he said if we were looking to try to pass here in May, we'd probably be looking at 3.75. So, about 0.85% higher rates on our bonds if we had to do a bond issue this spring. So, the fact that we were able to pass in November of 19 and get our bonds, we sold some of the bonds in December of 19, and we sold the remaining part in March of 2020. Timing-wise, the fact that the community supported us in November of 2019 is a great thing in terms of where interest rates were at that time. So that fact is, that has contributed to us being able to keep that millage is, a lot lower than we otherwise would have been. Yep.
If you can, there is a nasty little rumor going around, and I think now would be an appropriate time to squelch that. Because of all the rising prices and everything, I have been asked if we would be going out for more money because of all of the expenditures and materials and so on and so forth. So you could address that.
As we know, when we, the OFCC, they approved this for our projects as a whole to be funded 81% by the state and 19% by us, and 19% local. So when we passed our bond issue, it raised $44 million. $41 million was part of the master plan that OFCC agreed to. The other $3 million was additional costs that we wanted, things that we wanted to add to our project that OFCC wasn't funded. I mean, so it's a storm shelter. Is that
part of the storm shelter? Larger gyms, wood floors on the gym floors that they
okay? But so the main thing is, we raised $41 million locally through that bond issue, and that $41 million is going to be way more than enough to cover our 19% share when we look at, the 4 new buildings as a whole. So, we're expecting to hear from, we've heard from OFCC, just recently in the last, just last week. And that's great news that they've reached out to us. So we are definitely on their radar. And so we're very excited, sat in on a phone call with Andrea and Jack on that. And so we are on their radar. And so, we're hoping, we don't have any definites, but, we're just based on them reaching out to us, we're thinking that, that phase 2, these 2 new buildings are going to happen sooner rather than later. But the great thing is that $41 million that we passed from our first bond issue means that, the next 2 buildings will be zero cost to us. All that's going to be on the state because we've, our 19% share was a lot less than the $41 million that we had to raise to get the first two buildings built.
So
Thank
the
you.
bottom line is that for everybody listening or watching later, that thousands that you just mentioned might watch later, there will be no attempt by this board or this district to ask for any more money to make those buildings happen, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The state will be paying. The state will be
It's
paying
on them now.
entirely for the next 2 new buildings, even with the rise in prices. We're confident. We're pretty darn confident that that our 19% is that we've raised that and we're good.
Contracts were signed.
Exactly. Yep.
That isn't. I'm sorry. That's not always automatic. That budgets don't get blown up by things that may happen that you can't control. But all in all, since we started this 2 years ago, it hasn't been perfect, but it's been a little smoother than I thought it would be. I'll knock, okay? But I commend everybody that's been involved in this. And as we're all about to see, we're about to get to tour these buildings and see at least part of this come to fruition very, very soon. Thank you. Sorry, I should just keep my mouth shut.
I was waiting for the, are you sure?
No, that won't happen.
So the last slide here is just 5 dates that kind of, there's lots of significant dates that has happened, but November 5, 2019, that's the day that the community supported our 5.6 mil bond issue. March 11, 2020, that was the day that the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. October 7th, 2020, that was the date that the school board, approved an agreement with Shook Construction to start the site work, moving dirt, and then literally 12 hours later, the morning of October 8th of 2020, I had to get with Jack to kind of confirm the details, but I can remember seeing those, their equipment that next Thursday morning. They were out there moving dirt at 6 or 7 a.m. probably, 12 hours after you approve their agreement, for the site package. And then Jack says that we in central office are going to start moving May 19 and May 20th of 2022 in about 5 weeks, right? So it's just a lot of great things have happened obviously in the last 2.5, 3.5 years. You know, it even goes back to the bond committee, just starting the whole conversation. And timing wise, with interest rates, that has worked out very well with us. And I think Garmin Miller and Shook Construction and Jack, I mean, they've done just an incredible job just making this all happen. And especially Shook, with COVID and labor shortages, supply chain disruptions. I mean, they've been proactive from day one. And they were ordering stuff 6, 9, 12 months ahead of time. So I mean, Shook has done a great job keeping us on schedule, and the move will start, as I mentioned, in 5 weeks. So that's all I have, and then I'll have more information, about our forecast and general fund in May.
I would just like to say one thing. I know we talked about it in our finance committee a little bit ago, but it's nice that we get to kind of open up more to the public about the future of what we might need or might not need when it comes to bonds or issues or whatever the sorts. And I was just wondering, John, you may know, what was the House Bill 126? Do you know what happened with that? Did it pass or fail? It passed. Did it pass with amendments? Because it had to go back to the committee, right?
The committee of the House and the Senate, the committee passed it, so it's on to the governor for his signature.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Did they make any amendments that could be positive for the schools?
Relatively minor. I mean, minor amendments, but big picture, it favors corporations, businesses a lot more than it affects governments, and
Yeah. So. Okay. I was just wondering. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, Julie Jones. Ms. Jones with curriculum.
Good evening, everyone. I wanted to share just a couple of items, diagnostic data, as well as some summer school information. The data that I want to share with you tonight is just a snapshot of some of the assessments that we give our students during the year. So I just wanted to, since winter's the closest one to tonight, I wanted to show you some positive data. What you're looking at here is iReady winter diagnostic. We do give the iReady 3 times a year, and this is just this is the second of the 3 that you are looking at. We give this around late December, early January. And so I know you can't see the numbers on the screen. However, on the left is all the reading data for K through 5. On the right is all the math data, and I'll just give you kind of a summary of what's up here. This is all positive data because what you're the middle columns of both reading progress and math progress is the median percentage of an entire grade level moving towards 1 year's worth of growth. So I'm going to highlight 3rd grade reading. They are doing a fabulous job. They are along the 1 year growth continuum. They are at 88%, 100% being growing 1 year. So they are doing an amazing job. And then the other column where it says met already simply means that 46% of those 3rd graders are already there at a full year's growth measure. So this is really great news. I was so happy to see this. I normally have not spent a lot of time with iReady, so I'm just learning the all of the data and on the data dashboard, and I was very pleasantly surprised to see how well our students are growing compared to the first iReady diagnostic. Now they will take another one again in May, so we're hoping that all of those percentages in the middle for both math and reading are at least 100 or more. And that was for K to 5. So this slide is Procore, and we give Procore to our students in grades 4 through 12. We do give it in math, ELA, which you will see up here, but we also give it in social studies and science, and certainly in all the tested areas. And so this is all green, and they're small percentages, but they're all green. Again, good news. Between their first and second administration, all of our students, our math students, all the way up to geometry, and then our ELA students up to English 2, have all grown since the first administration. So just very proud of all of our students, especially all of our teachers, for growing our students despite some of the learning loss we've experienced in the past. And then lastly, I just wanted to highlight some summer school details. According to our one plan, it is our desire to offer an intervention type of summer school for all of our kiddos. So in the elementary and middle school in grades 1 through 8, we're going to target those students who are struggling a little bit in math and ELA. We're going to make it 4 weeks in length, and tentatively right now we're shooting for the middle school to be the location, but our curriculum is going to be an intervention program. So this particular scenario, we're going to take some of those iReady scores, and then we are going to target some of those students who need to grow a little bit further, and then target their intervention and the lessons and curriculum that we deliver. And so we're garnering some interest from teachers, so that's going pretty well, and then we'll get some confirmations with our students we'd like to invite. And then at the high school, we are again doing our credit recovery summer school. That will be 6 weeks in length. 3 weeks for semester 1 content, 3 weeks for semester 2. If you need the whole credit, you would obviously attend for the whole 6 weeks. We're going to utilize the PLP platform, and with all of the courses, we have a robust list of courses that we're able to offer our students. They can take more than one class, which is really, really nice. So if they are, if they need a couple of credits in different areas, they're able to do that as well. And then the nice thing about it, it was very successful last year, actually. From what Candace had told us, that even though the students are on a PLP platform, they are on site. So there's obviously a principal in the building, but there's teachers helping our students. And, kids are all in different places on the PLP platform, but simply having that kind of that lineup of teachers in the room certainly helps push the success rate up. So we're excited to be able to offer both of those for our grades 1 through 12.
Do you have any dates that you're looking at for these?
Yes. So for for our kiddos, grades 1 through 8, they're going to go from June 6th to July 1st. So all 4 full weeks in June. And then our high school is going to start on June 6th and go through July 15th. So that'll be the 6-week time frame. So, all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Dr. Myers is next.
Hello, I'm going to give just a brief synopsis of what we're doing with technology, and I think the best way to talk about this is sort of like a technology ecosystem. All of the things we do with technology that really run the district, it's responsible for how we communicate to the state, what's our enrollment, what type of demographics we have with students that directly impact our per pupil funding. As well as how we manage things like in human resources or with curriculum in the classroom. So it's a very simple slide. I have a 1-slide presentation since I gave you a big piece of paper last time. I thought I would thin this down. On the left side, you see a lot of the things that we use currently. So, and Ms. Miller, I'm sure you're gonna know these names when I say things like Progress Book or the grade book, because you live there as a coach and you go in there and you look at grades and you look at GPA. So our student information system has a nickname that we commonly use. We just call it Progress Book. But that, of course, is all of our student demographics, historical data. We purchased Progress Book in 2006. So everybody from 2006 forward, and even when we purchased it, we grabbed 3 to 5 years back then. So we went back to 2003, and all of that data, all of that archived data from graduates as well as our current students resides in Progress Book. So we're taking that entire, well, not entire, we're taking 5 years worth of that system with our current student data and 5 years back, and we're moving into a program called Power School. So it's going to sound a little confusing because I'm saying two very similar words, Progress Book and Power School. Progress Book is the old system, Power School is our new system. And the reason we're going and transitioning all of these programs under one ecosystem is because right now we're jumping around between different programs. And it is complicated to maneuver between these things because they don't talk to each other. And also, Power School is also more intuitive. It has many more features that are going to enable us to just be more efficient in what we do to operate business every single day in the classroom, in central office, and every department. So back to on my left there, you have Progress Book, which is our student information system, which also has a grade book. Now, sometimes people use that interchangeably, and they just say Progress Book when they mean the grade book. We also use a program called Public School Works, which houses our discipline and our behavior systems. We also use a program called People Works, which houses like professional development and human resource programs. And then we have many programs that are all different vendors, and they're all testing programs. So all of this is going to go under the umbrella, under the ecosystem of Power School. So Power School will become the new name we say, which will just be that student information system. Power Teacher Pro, that's the name of their grade book inside. Unified Talent, that's going to take all of the People Works and the Public School Works, and that's where we're going to put HR aspects and professional development. So it's all going to be under one system. And Performance Matters is where we're going to move a lot of our testing, and we've already done that this year. Testing platforms that teachers use, we're going to put that all inside a program inside Power School called Performance Matters. So in other words, you're just going to log into Power School, and you're going to click on the upper right-hand corner, and you're going to be able to navigate to all these things inside this system. It is going to become extremely user-friendly, as well as, like I mentioned, it's a more intuitive system. One thing I was glad to share with Mr. Ivory, the athletic director, of course, is that we can create automatic GPA lookups. Gone are the days of sitting there for hours and looking at GPA for students to determine eligibility. This system is more intuitive, and it has created a way that you can just go and immediately look up a GPA. I already heard the click.
Yeah. Does this replace Final Forms?
It does not replace Final Forms because Final Forms works very well with Power School. And actually, I investigated that quite a bit.
Okay.
And I asked for a meeting with Final Forms, and we can customize how Final Forms imports into Power School. It imports better than it does into Progress Book. So it was like, well, why get rid of it then?
Anything would. I mean.
Yes. But those have been the things I've been looking at, how do things like our special education platform. We have a special education platform that works very well, and it'll continue to work well with our new Power School. But we are consolidating. We're moving to a much more sophisticated system that will help us to operate more efficiently. And there's pieces about this I'm not getting into just because there's more pieces to come. What I think the questions you might get are the ones that come from teachers, which is, when are we going to get trained on this then? August 22nd, they're going to have a detailed training in which they learn how to do their attendance, they learn how to set up their grade book, they learn how to look up student information when they want to make that parent contact, and they're going to be taken through a training during that teacher workday. And they're going to get to learn and feel comfortable with all those aspects, and then we're going to follow up and provide an open lab time on our first QPT day and even our second QPT day just to say, all right, is anybody struggling with anything? Mandy Knott, Kim Harvey, Angie Cotter, and myself, we are the 4 people responsible for knowing it all. So we're building this system right now, and so when there are questions, they can send those things to us, and we can answer that and get them the information they need. But there will be some anxiety about moving to this system, but it's going to sell itself when they go in there and they can find things faster. They can get to their grade book quicker. They can look up things in a more intuitive manner and don't spend 20 minutes searching for things or running reports. Any other questions? Okay, I thought you had one. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item number 12, Mr. Barry. You've got a few things tonight, sir.
It's like 3 pages. Good evening. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 12A, accept the ratification of the resignation of the listed individual. 12B, accept the resignation of the listed individual. Item 12C, accept the ratification to conditionally employ the listed substitute teacher for the 2021-2022 school year pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. 12D, conditionally employ the listed substitute teacher for the 2021-2022 school year pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. 12E. Amend the listed paid leave of absence. 12E, approve the unpaid leave of absence. And 12G, grant a leave of absence to the listed individuals in accordance with the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act.
I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry.
Yes.
Any comments, sir?
Yes, I will say. This is the time period when, of course, this is the busiest time of year for me. A lot of hiring, a lot of job fairs, and I can say over the past decade that the job fairs this year have probably decreased by between a half and 2/3 of the candidates at each university. For an example, at Xavier University, there was an expected 400 plus, which I've seen many years prior. There's about 214 schools represented from Ohio as far as Alaska and Florida, and they offer these large bonuses. There were a little over 100 students there, teachers. So we are starting to see those effects. But on the bright side, I would say we've posted multiple positions last week. One administrative position was posted Monday. That position has 29 applicants in 2 days, and we have 146 for a second grade position as now. So we're still getting the applicants. It's just we probably need to act a bit quicker than we have in the past. So that's it.
Item number 13.
13, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. 13A, amend the following supplemental pupil activity contracts for the 2021-2022 school year. Please strike the second name there as indicated on the addendum. And item 13B, grant a supplemental pupil activity contract to the listed individuals for the 2021-2022 school year. The third name on the list, please strike that name as indicated on the addendum as well. And 13C, approve the listed individual as a volunteer for the 2021-2022 school year.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mrs. Miller,
Abstain.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Item 14, superintendent recommends that the board approve the following personnel items. Item 14A, accept the resignation of the listed individual for retirement purposes. Item 14B, accept the resignation of the listed individual. And 14C, conditionally employ the listed individuals pending approval by the Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation and Consensual Drug Screening as required by Ohio Revised Code 3319.291 and the policies of the West Carrollton City School District. Item 14D, accept the promotion of the listed individuals for successfully passing the full-time cook civil service examination. Congratulations. 14E, amend the leave of absence to the listed individual. And 14F, grant a medical leave of absence to the listed individuals. And 14G, grant a leave of absence to the listed individual in accordance with the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan, roll call.
Question. Mr. Sloan, on item A, is the first name of the individual corrected?
On the addendum?
No, it had a typo on
Or, well,
It was corrected.
You're confirming it is?
Tammy revised the agenda to change it, right?
But you and the president of the board will add your signature for the correctness
Correct.
after we vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Any comments, sir?
Yeah, just real quick, Anna Prowl, who's on there, who you asked a question about. Sad to see her go, but she's been talked about for a couple years now, and she's going to go out and enjoy a little time with the family, and I think that's a great thing for that. But she'll be a hard one to replace, and she's done a great service, not just as multimedia where she's at, but she was also helped out with interpretive skills when we needed it. So, because she was pretty fluent in Spanish. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 15, Mr. Berry.
15, the superintendent recommends that the board approve the new job description, labeled number 115, Director of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives as presented.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 16, Dr. Townsend.
I'd like to recommend that the West Carrollton Board of Education grant an administrative contract to the following administrators for the period of time indicated, and there's 7 individuals.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Okay, number 17, I'd like to recommend that the board approves the Business Professionals of America, the BPA, National Leadership Conference student trip from May 4th, 2022 through May 8th, 2022 in Dallas, Texas, as presented. Over 6,000 students from across the country will gather to compete, showcase their business skills, and develop their leadership portfolio. The National Leadership Conference offers 4 days of competition, leadership development sessions, BPA days of service, and more.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Llewellyn?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mundy?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Henry?
Yes.
Number 18, Mr. Sloan.
Thank you. I ask that the board approve as presented the financial reports for March 2022.
Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yes.
Sorry, I should have made the comments before, but these are the reports for 9 months, July 1 through March 31. Just the main thing is just on the bottom half of the cover page, just saying that just comparing the actual numbers to the November forecast, and our state revenues will turn out to be higher than what I was anticipating back when we put the forecast together back in November. We didn't start seeing the details of the the actual details of our state funding until January, February. So we will end this year a little better than what the November forecast was saying. So that's a good thing.
Item number 19, Mr. Haig.
Okay, I'd ask the board to approve a resolution stating, whereas the West Carrollton Board of Education wishes to advertise and receive bids for the purchase of one additional school bus. Now therefore be it resolved that the West Carrollton Board of Education wishes to participate and authorize the Southwestern Ohio Educational Purchasing Council to advertise and receive bids on said board's behalf as per the specifications submitted for the cooperative purchase of one additional school bus.
Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Item number 20.
Okay, the superintendent recommends that the board authorize the purchase of one 72-passenger integrated chassis school bus from Cardinal Bus Sales based upon the bids received through the Southwestern Ohio Educational Purchasing Council as presented. The bus purchase shall comply with the Ohio School Bus Minimum Construction Standards as published by the Ohio Department of Education.
Need a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn.
Yeah, I want to say something real quick, just for anybody watching this. The first resolution we just passed was to sell an old bus, right?
It was saying that we would allow the Southwest Ohio EPC to advertise and receive bids on our behalf. So they went out as a consortium.
So we just, that's what I thought, but then I'm sitting here reading it going, so we basically approved the group that we would be able to get this bid with, and now we've already decided on the bus to purchase.
This bid was done back in October. And at that time, we asked them to go out for 3 buses for us. And you guys approved that for
remember
3
that.
buses, and
I
we
remember
purchased
that.
3. Because of a grant we got through ODE to help us fund bus purchases, they would fund up to 4 buses, a certain amount. So since we'd already purchased 3, by adding this 4th bus on, we're basically getting 4 buses for the cost of 2.5 buses. They're funding 1.5 buses for us.
Even though I was wrong in my assessment, I'm glad I asked you. So thank you for that.
And then back in October, we have also approved for the selling of auction a couple buses too,
And
right?
I didn't put that on here yet, but that'll come here at a later date. So
Sorry, go ahead, I'm sorry.
we might not get rid of that 4th bus. We might keep one of them, depending on, we're still putting routes together for the new schools.
Right, gotcha. All right.
Was the state, I don't have that number memorized, but is our state funding was it about 220,000? So they're basically giving us 55,000 for 4 buses,
Yeah.
which means that we're getting 4 buses this year for about 30 or 35,000 apiece. So we're not having to pay the full 89. I mean,
90,000.
a big part of the new state budget was they put a lot of money into the new bus purchase program. So that's helping our capital improvement fund out a lot.
See, you don't learn this if you don't ask questions. Even if my question was a little off center, sorry about that. And my vote's yes, so go ahead.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yeah.
I think the question had all the comments I was going to say, so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Great, thank you. Item number 21, Mr. Barry. the addendum. Do you want my copy? 21, the
21.
contract. I was gonna say, you read the other addendums, you should have that copy.
Thank you. I'm back again. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education of the West Carrollton City School District approve the new negotiated agreement between the West Carrollton Education Association and the Board of Education of West Carrollton School District, consistent with the tentative agreement prepared and reviewed by the parties and ratified by the WCEA on April 11th, 2022. Provisions and articles contained in the negotiated agreement continue July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
Need a motion and a second, please.
A motion?
Second.
Mr. Sloan?
Mr. Henry,
Yes.
Mr. Llewellyn,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Mundy,
Yes.
Mr. Cox.
Yes. Any comments?
Very happy about negotiations. I think it was 3 days. Was it 3 or 4? 4 days. Some spirited conversations, very respectful. I'm very thankful for our WCEA's understanding and being able to have some respectful discourse and to come to terms that I think are for the best interest of children. So,
Great.
yes, the happiest I believe I've been.
And it's over with.
Good deal. Yes.
We can move on with
Yeah.
hiring. Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on to comments and reports, committee reports. Yes, sir, go ahead.
For the Miami Valley Career Technical Center, I'm not going to bore you with numbers, but as a board member, I went out to see the new move-in of heavy equipment and diesel mechanics at their facility. And they have more space to work inside a structure. They have some 4 simulators that a student can sit and see a functional display screen as they use the hand sensors to operate that equipment. It's so realistic. There are mirrors that you can see what's happening behind the equipment operator. You see the full dashboard and any response from the operator's action as to what the vehicle is doing. This might be a front-end loader. It might be a dump truck. It might be a what they call a skid loader. Hope I got the right term. And short of actually being on a huge piece of equipment out there, it's as close as I have seen. And I had 10 years with the Army as a combat engineer with 28 heavy equipment operators. I often rode along with them as kind of a teacher evaluator of their using the equipment. I was very impressed. And I think the fact that we have this type of support for equipment operators and mechanics that are so greatly needed out in industry, and we can do that now. These young students only have a couple more weeks if they're a senior student. I think it's 5 weeks, and they're on the job market, but they're already employed. They have jobs. It's that good. Thank you.
I have an athletic booster meeting report. If you are still wanting a winter program, they still have some available. All you have to do is get in touch here at the main office. Mr. Ivory can help you with that. They're still looking for people to run for the board. Sarah Dobson is put in for the new president, but elections will be at the following meeting, May 11th, and they usually do that via Zoom. Let's see, just a few things. Cheerleading tryouts was last weekend, and all have been selected. Football, we have, as you know, we have a new coach, and he is drawing a lot of participation. So far, it's been in the low 40s every day, and his projection is that we will have 55 to 60 participants in the fall. So that would be a really good thing for us. If you've been around us for a long period of time, you'll know that occasionally we will run the Kettering physicals for all of our sports people. Unfortunately, this year, due to a lack of physicians able to go out to the schools, what they're doing is a kickback program. So if your child doctor is in the Kettering network, you can tell them, and then we will get a portion of that funding, and it will go to our athletic program. Track went to Oakwood and won a nice big trophy that will be going in our trophy cabinet, and they are also looking for volunteers. April 25th, they need volunteers. There's a big track meet. I'm sure Mr. Cox can fill you in on all of that. And wrestling is doing a Dayton Dragons fundraiser currently, and they are also looking for girls because, as you know, we had a girl go quite far in the girls wrestling, which is now sanctioned by the OHSAA. So that's about it. May 11th is our next meeting.
We had a small meeting tonight at 5:30, part of the naming committee, or starts of a naming committee for our new buildings. Just to kind of give you a quick rundown for those of you who were not here, there's no big rush for this. We're just going to kind of start putting together ideas and guidelines on what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. May have to amend some policies on what this looks like. So this was just the first meeting. Nothing was set in stone, nothing was named. If you have information or ideas that you would like to submit to that group, please email those to Janine at the district, and we'll compile all those together and look forward for announcements on the next date on that next meeting. Anybody else, committee? Okay, moving on to our superintendent.
Thank you. A couple things. First of all, I'd like to thank the kids for coming in tonight and performing the beginning of the play, the first act. Can't wait to see it. Also, I'd like to congratulate our students at OMEA, our middle school students, and I'm glad they're going to continue on with our orchestra and music programs in high school. Don't forget, we have our ECC and CF holiday visits from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. this Saturday. And just on a different note, we had discussed another SRO at the high school level, like Mr. Tittle, similar to Mr. Tittle, and we were able to post that, and I believe a selection's been made and it will be on the next agenda. So very happy about that, and I'd like to wish everybody.
It actually wasn't a secret. There was a discussion.
There was a discussion.
There was a discussion.
And
you were here.
you were here. And I'd like to wish everybody a happy Easter.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm getting old. Does anybody else remember this? That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Coming from our treasure.
I must be zoning out or something.
You can go back to sleep now.
Yesterday and Monday, yesterday and Monday, yeah, that's correct. I attended the OASBO annual conference up in Columbus with several hundred treasurers, business managers, and food service supervisors across the state. So downtown Columbus will never be the same. but it was a good time just collaborating with a lot of finance people across the state. And one of the topics is just regarding the state budget. I mean, as I mentioned, there is a new state budget that kicked in this July, but it's really only good for July of 21 through June of 23, and so they're just a reminder that the goal is that for this new funding formula to be phased in over 6 years, but it's not guaranteed because, as we know, the state budget is only set for 2 years. So the point is that next January, February, March, when the governor starts talking about the budget for the next 2 years, I mean, just the point is that across the state we just need to communicate to our legislators that they need to keep funding year 3 and 4, of this funding formula. So it's going to be an ongoing discussion to have them, to have especially the state senators. They were kind of reluctant in the first place, but they need to just be committed to keep phasing in the school funding formula, which is in place right now.
Great. Thank you very much. We have no comments from the Education Association, no comments from classified. Central staff, Mr. Barry.
Just wanted to thank the group, the musical group, definitely Charlie Brown group. Definitely, I thought they did a really good job, and I'm excited about seeing what they do from here. Also, I neglected to thank the board for ratifying the contract and working with the WCU. So thank you.
Mr. Haig.
Just something real quick, there's a lot going on with the projects as we're getting close to the end. Been a reminder to everybody, it's still a construction site, and there's no unauthorized personnel allowed. They're taking their fences down just because they're doing landscaping outside now, trying to get everything to the correct elevation, get seating done and stuff, so the fences are down. But it's an off-limit site still a construction site. So only by appointment only can people come or go through that site. And it's still a hard hat, high-vis suit, glasses type area for people. So tomorrow we're having the punch list walkthrough on the first floor of the PK1 building. So that will be an exciting 8 hours tomorrow to walk through. But hopefully that's a great sign, because once we can get those items cleared up, we should have temporary occupancy should be by the end of next week for that building. And once we have that permitted, then it's time to get ready.
Just so you folks know, a punch list means there's more than one set of eyes on multiple trades. They're going to go through and look for any discrepancies, things that don't look right, maybe miss some paint, some drywall's not right, to bring it up to what the supervisors, Mr. Haig, will see that needs to be fixed before we actually take full possession of the buildings. So that can be a lengthy process. Hopefully it won't be, and I'm glad we're on schedule. It's good stuff. All right, Ms. Tice.
I just want to say I was able to go through the pre-K1 building on Friday, and it's very nearing completion. It is such an amazing opportunity for our community. It is amazing. It's beautiful. It's exciting for all the staff who are going to be moving into those buildings and the kids. And as I had mentioned to Jack when we were walking through, so few teachers and administrators, school board members, community members get to experience something like this. And so just the work that has gone into this since we passed that bond issue is amazing. Amazing, quick progress, and to see it come to life right before our eyes is just incredible. So we're really fortunate, and great work to everybody who's worked on the project.
Anything to add from curriculum? Okay. Great. All right.
I will say thank you, of course, for the new position, and I look forward to what that brings.
You got your hands full there. Yeah, just a few things. Plus all the questions that'll be coming in over the next 6 to 8 months, so should be interesting. All right. Let's see. Comments from the public? We have none. Board members. We'll start with Mr. Mundy tonight.
Hello. Okay, so Of course, I want to get started by saying how amazing that play was, or the little piece of it, and I'm excited to see the whole thing here in a few days. I also wanted to mention that to be sure to vote. It's going to be next time we have a meeting is going to be after the May 3rd election. So, be sure to get out there, do your part, vote. Early voting is going on right now, and it's always good to do your part. I also want to say Happy Easter. How exciting it is to be able to be with our family again and to have these holidays and to be with each other. It's always a good time to do that. Of course, I have a little quote. I don't know if any of you guys are bookworms, but there's a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. I fully suggest it to anyone that's into productivity and things like that. It's a fantastic book. And one quote I got out of that book was, "One moment of courage can change your day, one day can change your life, and one life can change the world." So just a little something to take home from that. So thank you guys so much.
Mr. Henry.
Hopefully it won't rain tomorrow. Even though it's an indoor inspection, you gotta get there. We did take a tour of the PK1 building almost 2 weeks ago, and as Mrs. Tice mentioned, it's eye-opening, it's inviting. The choice of colors in the decor of the classrooms and the hallways are awakening. I can't really imagine our youngest students and their initial expression of anything short of, wow, this is all new. We get to do this. I'm done, thank you. Happy holidays.
Mr. Llewellyn.
I have two things to share. One of them is my son's not an athlete, but he was excited about what I'm about to tell you, and I don't truly know if it'll even affect our district at all, but I believe that OHS AA meeting in May, is it the 11th, or do you know what day it is in May? Anyway, the Ohio High School Athletic Association has a meeting in May, and I have learned that one of the things they're going to vote on is determining whether students can receive sponsorships as athletes. Like you see in college right now, where kids are able to get their signatures and charge for signatures. They're able to contract with businesses to promote themselves in the business. And so the Athletic Association in the month of May is going to be voting as to whether or not Ohio athletes will be allowed to do this. So I'll be watching that, see how they decide that. The other thing I want to share is about the musical. And I would just share with anybody who's thinking about going that if you want to go on Sunday, you're sitting in the back, because Sunday is the busiest. They've sold nearly 200 tickets for that show, and the seats right now, if you want to sit in the center at least, are in the back 5 rows, unless you want to get a single seat in a couple of spots. Sitting on the side close is still very doable, but if you want to go on Sunday, you better get online and look and get those tickets. Friday, a little surprising to me, it's sold the least, and Saturday's kind of in the middle, but Sunday is a couple hundred tickets sold already. So if you wanted to go Sunday, you're sitting on the side. But looking forward, of course, my son is Charlie Brown, for anybody who doesn't know, and I haven't got to hear anything. He won't practice in front of us. He doesn't sing anything. His sister, who is a junior in college now, who is in choir, she'll perform for us anytime we ask. She was Charlie Brown 7 years ago at Miamisburg's theater program, and they actually cast her as Charlie Brown, so she was a boy, which was a little weird to her at first, but she sang everything for us. Him? No, I don't get to hear a thing. That's the first time I've heard him sing a Charlie Brown tune, and at least he couldn't hide from me in here, so thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be here all 3 nights volunteering also. So
Great, thank you. Ms. Miller?
Well, I've done a lot of juggling because of spring. Hopefully spring will be over soon. I really hope so we can move on to summer because spring is just awful. It's a logistical nightmare is what it is. All of the spring sports, we are all faced with that. So it's not just me. Softball, baseball, track, the whole 9 yards. We're all facing some. I actually showed my book to my husband today, and I said, "Look at this! It's a disaster." But we're muddling through, and we've done some new things that we haven't ever done before because of it, and it seems to be working. So we'll continue on. Hopefully, the bright sun will come back out, and we'll be able to go on merrily from here on forth. In my travels, I have learned that our bus driver, Miss Tiffany, is going to be in a bus rodeo next weekend. She was busy studying at our match last night up in Sydney. She had plenty of time to do it, let me tell you. So she's all excited about that. I wanted to wish her good luck. And just happy Easter to everybody, and may spring be over soon. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to thank the West Carrollton Education Association and all of our staff for a speedy contract. It sounds like everybody played nicely, which is great. I know there was a lot to talk about with COVID and everything over the last 2 years and things like that. Everybody was well deserving of a whole lot more. I think teachers are underpaid anyways for what they do every day with our kids and for the responsibility that we give them. Unfortunately, we still have a budget to follow, and I'm glad everybody could come to terms. Our track team, 2 very rainy track meets. Oakwood was miserable and cold. The vaulters got in, the runners got in, the high jumpers, long jumpers, they all got in. At the Bogans here on our own home track, that was a rough one. It started off decent, but then it just got nasty quick. Our 2 boys, one of them being my son, got their vaults in, and as soon as they got the vaults in and they tied for first place, the 2 of them did, the weather hit and they shut the pits down. So as everybody knows, it's a little bit dangerous when you're holding a giant lightning rod. Fortunately, there was no lightning, so everything was good. But we placed first at Oakwood with the boys, third with the girls. At our meet here, boys were shy, I think they said by 2 points of first place, so we took second. I'm not sure where the girls placed at, so come on out. I think we've got one more home track meet. It won't be as big as the Bogans. They are looking for volunteers. Get a hold of Mr. Ivory or Coach Kirk and see what you can do for there. I coached a basketball team through our winter, just a ragtag little team that went down to Kingdom. They got invited to a competitive league to play into the spring. So we have 11 boys from our school playing. Unfortunately, the competitive league is extremely competitive. We went 7-4 in the regular league. We are 0-2 in the competitive league. But let me tell you something. We lost both games by 1 point. And we are playing AAU teams that have been together for absolute years. When they show up with matching shooting sweats, matching shoes, the uniforms are I mean, they're on it. And we show up with the little flip-flop shirts, one color one side, one color the other side, no names or anything on them. Some of the boys are wearing gym shoes on the floor, some are not. I mean, it's literally like the island of misfit children, misfit toys. It's just it's funny to watch because we go out there and they second guess us right off the bat. But then all of a sudden they realize that we're here to play. So it's been a lot of fun. We'll see what happens. So if you see any of those kids running around, pat them on the back. They're working hard. So we'll see what happens. That's all I've got tonight. We do have an executive meeting. We're going to break into that. We'll take a few minutes if anybody needs to go to the bathroom, and then we'll meet back in the back room. So thank you all for coming out tonight. And there'll be no official business after that. Thank you.